A container ship has just been struck, 35 nautical miles northwest of Dubai, one of the busiest commercial corridors on the planet. Nobody claimed responsibility. Nobody needed to. Everyone already knows who's behind it. This is not a random act. This is not an isolated incident. This is a calculated, coordinated campaign. And what you are watching unfold right now in the Middle East is something that historians will write about for decades. Let's break down exactly what is happening, why it matters to you personally, and why the next 72 hours could change the global economy overnight. Operation Epic Fury. That is the name the United States gave to its military campaign against Iran. It launched on February 28th, and since that moment, the entire Middle East has been on fire, literally and figuratively. American forces have been delivering precision strikes against Iranian military infrastructure, weapons depots, air defense systems, and command centers. U.S. Central Command confirmed this week that Iran is, quote, losing air capability day by day. That is not spin. That is the United States military saying, on the record, that they are systematically dismantling one of the most heavily armed regimes in the world. But here's where it gets complicated. Iran is not sitting still. Bahrain was attacked, Saudi Arabia was attacked, the United Arab Emirates was attacked, all on the same day. Missiles, drones, fuel tanks targeted. The Saudis shot down 2 drones. The Emiratis watched a container ship get hit in their own backyard. This is Iran sending a message to every single Gulf state that hosts American military bases. You are not safe. You are in range. And if you continue to let the Americans operate from your soil, you will bleed alongside them. And then there is the Strait of Hormuz. If you do not know what the Strait of Hormuz is, you need to understand it right now, because this narrow body of water, just 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, is the single most important choke point for global oil supply on Earth. Nearly 20% of the world's petroleum passes through it every single day. About 17 million barrels of oil every single day. Iran has now officially closed it. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the late Ayatollah, who reportedly took power after his father was killed or critically wounded in the opening strikes of Operation Epic Fury, released a statement read on Iranian state television. The Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until the war is over. Those were the words. And he added a direct demand to Gulf neighbors. Remove all American military bases from your territory. Think about what that means for a moment. The global oil market runs on confidence. It runs on the assumption that tomorrow tankers can move, that supply chains hold, that the fuel that powers factories in Germany, ships in Japan, trucks in Ohio, that all of it keeps flowing. Iran just ripped that assumption apart. President Trump has already warned that there will be consequences if Iran attempts to block oil transport through the strait, but Iran didn't attempt. Iran declared. The question now is, what does the United States do next? Meanwhile, something else is developing that you probably haven't heard enough about. There are reports, leaked law enforcement bulletins, suggesting a potential Iranian revenge plot targeting California. A possible drone swarm launched from an offshore boat. Trump confirmed he was briefed on it. He said it was being investigated. And then, just hours later, his own press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, stood at the podium and said, "No such threat from Iran to our homeland exists," and it never did. That contradiction right there tells you something. Either the administration is walking back intelligence it shouldn't have disclosed, or there is a deliberate attempt to manage public panic. Either way, federal authorities are actively monitoring what they describe as Iranian sleeper cells already inside the United States. The president said it himself. He said he was briefed on it. These are not the words of an administration that believes the threat is zero. Now let's talk about the economic pressure cooker that is building inside Iran itself. Mike Waltz, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, appeared on television and said something remarkable. He said this war started in 1979, that Trump is not going to absorb Iranian aggression anymore, that he is going to end it, not manage it, not contain it, end it. And then Waltz said something that cuts to the core of Iran's vulnerability. The Iranian currency is in freefall. Their foreign reserves are collapsing. Their own merchant class was already protesting in the streets just months ago. This is the other front of the war. Not bombs, not drones. Economic suffocation. sanctions, currency collapse, and now a military campaign that is degrading their armed forces daily. The Iranian regime is being squeezed from every angle simultaneously, and a regime under that kind of pressure becomes unpredictable, desperate, dangerous. Which brings us back to the waters around the Gulf. The day after the container ship was hit near Dubai, a Thai-flagged cargo ship was set on fire in the Strait of Hormuz off the coast of Oman. These are not isolated incidents. This is a pattern. Iran is targeting commercial shipping to demonstrate that no vessel is safe, that the entire region is now a war zone, that the cost of doing business here has just skyrocketed, and that the world will feel it, and the world will feel it. Your fuel costs, your shipping costs, the price of goods that travel by sea, which is nearly everything. The global supply chain that took years to recover from COVID is now staring down another disruption, and this one comes with missiles. The United States is now considering waiving the Jones Act. If you don't know what that is, and the Jones Act is a 1920 law requiring that goods shipped between U.S. ports be carried on American-built, American-owned, American-crewed vessels. It is a protectionist law, and the White House is now looking at temporarily suspending it, not because they want to, but because they may have no choice. If the Strait of Hormuz stays closed, if tanker routes are disrupted, the U.S. needs maximum flexibility to move energy products between its own ports as fast as possible. This is not a small thing. Jones Act waivers have only been triggered historically by catastrophic events, hurricanes, cyber attacks, wars. The fact that it is on the table tells you how seriously Washington is taking the supply risk. And out in the Red Sea, on the USS Gerald R. Ford, one of the Navy's most advanced aircraft carriers, currently operating in support of Operation Epic Fury, there was a fire. It started in the ship's laundry spaces. 2 sailors were injured. The Navy was quick to clarify, not combat-related, contained, the carrier remains fully operational. But you have to understand the psychological weight of that announcement. When a carrier group is deployed in an active combat zone and there is a fire aboard, even a non-combat fire, it sends ripples through the chain of command. The Ford is one of the flagships of this operation. It cannot go dark. So let's zoom out and look at the full picture. You have a U.S. military campaign actively degrading Iranian forces. You have Iran retaliating with missiles and drones across multiple countries simultaneously. You have a container ship struck near Dubai. You have a cargo ship on fire in the Strait of Hormuz. You have Iran's new supreme leader, a man who may have been wounded in the opening strikes of this very war, declaring the world's most critical oil passage closed indefinitely. You have the White House preparing economic emergency measures. You have leaked bulletins about threats on American soil. You have 47,000 Americans evacuated from the Middle East in less than 2 weeks. This is not a regional skirmish. This is not a limited engagement. What is unfolding right now is the most significant confrontation between the United States and Iran since the Iranian Revolution, and possibly the most consequential conflict in the Middle East since the Gulf War. The next moves matter enormously. Does Iran double down on commercial shipping attacks? Does it try to permanently mine the strait? Does a Gulf state suffer a strike so severe it demands American escalation? Does something happen on U.S. soil that changes the entire calculus overnight? Nobody knows, and that uncertainty is itself the weapon Iran is wielding right now, because uncertainty freezes markets. Uncertainty drives oil prices. Uncertainty makes governments hesitate. But one thing is no longer uncertain. The United States has decided that 47 years of managing Iran is over. The question is what comes next, and whether the world is ready for the answer.